The weight of the headline currently moving across the digital space this morning is nothing short of a political earthquake, and it is centered on one of the most respected seats of power in West Africa. We are looking at a story that has just broken in these final weeks of 2025, involving the spiritual leader of the Nigerian Muslim community and a very vocal member of the United States Congress. The headline states, "Sultan of Sokoto exposed by Mary Miller as terrorist sponsor of radical Islam killings," and to say this has set the Nigerian social media space on fire would be an understatement. This is a moment where international diplomacy, religious sensitivity, and national security have all crashed into one another, creating a situation that every Nigerian, regardless of their faith or tribe, is currently discussing with bated breath. To understand how we got here, we have to look at what has been happening in Washington, D.C. over the last few months of 2025. United States Congresswoman Mary Miller, a prominent member of the House Values Action Team, has been leading a very aggressive campaign alongside other lawmakers like Riley Moore. Their mission has been to push the United States government to take a much harder line against what they describe as the systematic persecution of Christians in Nigeria. Just this November, a resolution known as House Resolution 866 was introduced in the 119th Congress. This document is quite heavy because it explicitly condemns the violence in Nigeria and calls for the country to be designated as a country of particular concern. But the real shock came when Mary Miller's rhetoric shifted from general condemnation to what many are interpreting as a direct finger-pointing exercise at the traditional and religious leadership in northern Nigeria. While the Congresswoman hasn't held a specific exposure ceremony with a folder of secret documents, her public statements and the legislative documents she is supporting have created a narrative that the impunity enjoyed by radical groups in the north is being facilitated by those at the top. This connects directly to a separate but equally explosive development from late October 2025. You might recall that the movement for the actualization of the sovereign state of Biafra, popularly known as MASOB, recently came out with a very bold demand. They called for an immediate probe into allegations that allegedly link the Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Saad Abubakar III, to extremist ideologies. These allegations were initially fueled by a former American mayor, Mike Arnold, who openly accused the Sultan of being complicit in the violence against Christian communities and failing to use his massive influence to stop the slaughter. This is a very delicate situation because the Sultan has always presented himself as a man of peace and a bridge builder. In fact, if you've been following the news earlier this year in April 2025, you'll remember the Sultan made a very famous and controversial speech where he called for social media to be treated as a terrorist organization. He argued that people sit in their comfort zones and formulate stories that are not true, which then destabilize the nation. It is quite ironic that today, the very social media he wanted the security agencies to crush is now the primary vehicle for these international allegations against him. But this is the world of 2025, where information moves faster than any government can track. Now, if you are as concerned as I am about how these international allegations could affect the peace and unity of our country, please take a moment to hit that like button right now. It helps this information reach more people so we can have a balanced conversation. And if you want to stay updated as this high-stakes drama between the US Congress and the Sokoto Caliphate continues to unfold, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Your support ensures we can keep digging for the truth in a time when rumors are flying everywhere. The radical Islam killings mentioned in the headline refer to the tragic statistics that have plagued the year 2025. Reports from international observers show that thousands of lives have been lost this year alone due to attacks by militant groups and what some lawmakers in the US are calling genocide. Mary Miller has been very clear in her stance, stating that under a strong American leadership, which she believes is returning to the world stage, this unspeakable evil will no longer be ignored. She has explicitly mentioned that the Nigerian government's failure to protect its citizens is a key factor, and her supporters believe that this failure goes all the way up to the traditional rulers who hold the spiritual keys to the region. From a diplomatic perspective, this is a nightmare for the Tinubu administration. Having a US lawmaker use such strong language against the Sultan of Sokoto is not just an attack on a person, it is an attack on a centuries-old institution that represents millions of people. The Sultan's camp has consistently dismissed these claims as misleading and divisive, arguing that Christians and Muslims have lived together in the north for centuries. They view these accusations as part of a larger Western agenda to destabilize northern Nigeria. But when you have a sitting US congresswoman standing on the floor of the House backing resolutions that name the existential threat in Nigeria, the pressure becomes more than just talk. It becomes a threat of sanctions, visa bans, and a total shift in how Nigeria is viewed on the global stage. Now, what makes this gist even more captivating is the speculation about what comes next. If the US government actually adopts the views of Mary Miller and her colleagues, we could see a situation where high-ranking traditional rulers are placed on watch lists. Imagine a scenario where the religious head of millions is restricted from traveling or has his international influence curtailed because of these sponsorship allegations. This is why Nigerians are reacting with fear. We know that in our country, religion and politics are two sides of the same coin. An attack on the Sultan is seen by many in the north as an attack on Islam itself, while many in the south and the middle belt see the US intervention as a long-awaited call for justice. We are also seeing a massive divide in the comment sections across the internet. Some Nigerians are praising Mary Miller for her bravery in calling out the powers that be, while others are calling her a meddler who doesn't understand the complex realities of Nigerian life. There is a deep-seated fear that this international exposure could be the spark that ignites further communal tensions. If the people on the ground begin to believe that their leaders are being targeted by foreign powers, it could lead to a wave of anti-Western sentiment, or worse, a breakdown of the fragile peace we are currently managing. As we wrap up this report, the question remains, is there actual evidence, or is this a case of international politics being played with Nigerian lives? Mary Miller hasn't released a smoking gun yet, but the legislative pressure she is mounting is a gun in itself. It is aimed at the heart of the Nigerian establishment. The Sultan of Sokoto has a long history of participating in peace committees and interfaith dialogues, so these allegations of sponsoring radical Islam killings are a massive departure from his public persona. Yet, in the eyes of his critics in Washington, his silence on specific atrocities or his defense of the status quo is being interpreted as complicity. I want to hear from you. Do you think the US Congress is right to put our traditional leaders under the spotlight, or do you think this is a dangerous move that could lead to more violence? This is the kind of story that requires us to think deeply as a nation. Please share your thoughts in the comments, and if you haven't done so already, remember that hitting the subscribe button is the best way to make sure you don't miss our follow-up on this story. We are waiting for an official response from the Sultanate and the Nigerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and as soon as that drops, you'll hear it here first. The year 2025 is proving to be a year of reckoning. Whether it's the Sultan's war on social media or Mary Miller's war on radical sponsorship, the truth is getting harder to hide. We will continue to follow the money, the documents, and the declarations to bring you the gist as it happens. Stay safe, stay informed, and let's keep the peace in our great country. Until the next update.